When you see in actual practice across the jurisdictions, no country can claim that the chances of innocent people being convicted is zero. So having that thing in my mind, because I have extensive interest in DNA forensics since last around 3 decades when I was a student of biochemistry, Jawaharlal Nehru University.
Welcome to another episode of Tech Talk. Today we have Dr. G.K. Goswami, who is an IPS. What is the Innocence project at Cornell Law School? What were your key takeaways, Doctor? We would like to listen to your opinion.
Yeah, wonderful. This is the very core subject which always touch my heart. Okay. Being a student of law as well as a professional in the policing, I had observed that there are lot of emphasis on conviction rate. Most of the time, all stakeholders, including police, judiciary, and even the government, are more inclined to punish the people. And that is obvious also because the society at large wish to have peace and tranquility, crime-free society. But on the other side, if you remember and recollect, the Black Stamp, a judge, very famous judge of US, he said that let 10 criminal get escort free, but not even a single innocent be convicted. Right? So this is the spirit. But when you see in actual practice across the jurisdictions, no country can claim that the chances of innocent people being convicted is zero. So having that thing in my mind, because I have extensive interest in DNA forensics since last around 3 decades when I was a student of biochemistry, Jawaharlal Nehru University. So at that time, I was fortunate that the world-class professors at that point of time when DNA forensics was almost introduced globally by Alex Jeffrey in 1984. So I had fascination with that.
Yes.
And you will surprise once I get into police service, I was posted to Varanasi. And there was one case where one foreigner lady about age 24, 25, named Dinah, she was brutally killed by a villager. She was a tourist in Varanasi and she was like a very innocent girl, want to visit village, and a rickshaw puller allure her and took her to his village. And she was killed and buried under the ground and the construction was made. Those days, these mobile phones and other services were not as on date in India. So after few weeks, when the worried parents of that diseased lady tried to trace, but there was no way. Ultimately, the case was registered, and it was found subsequently that she was buried. At this point, as a new IPS officer, I enter into Varanasi as additional police superintendent.
Yes.
Because I was having some idea of DNA fingerprinting. So I requested my senior police officer to conduct DNA. And this was probably the first case in criminal side which actually was used to identify the bones of the deceased person and that was linked with the parents. And that is how UP became probably the first state to introduce DNA. And Dr. Lalji Singh at that point of time, he belongs to Jaunpur, close to Varanasi. And he is a very proclaimed, although now he's no more. He was my supervisor also, my PhD. So he helped because he was very icon at that point of time and he introduced DNA forensics and DNA profiling in India. So that was the first case in criminal side. So having said that, I was very much, interested for learning about how innocent people can be saved, right?
Yes.
And I got opportunity to have Fulbright fellowship. And I am again lucky to have the highest segment of Fulbright fellowship that is called Flex Award. So I went as a researcher, not as a student, because most of the time in Fulbright people go for 10-month course and all. So this segment of Flex, I became the first Indian in the legal studies for having this. And I was again fortunate that Cornell invited me as a Fulbright fellow. And there I met lot many people. And beside it, let me tell you just about little bit Innocence project. When the DNA fingerprinting proved its worth in courtroom to identify the correct human identification. If somebody asks that what is the role of DNA role is actually correct identification of human being or maybe any other living or dead person or that thing, whatever. Wherever you can get DNA or RNA, you can utilize it for the identification. So I was very much inspired with Innocence. Two lawyers at that point of time were again inspired in US with this research. And especially Professor Barry Sack became my mentor, who actually pioneered this thing. And I was in constant touch before I got this fellowship. And this was a very good chance for me. So I wrote to him that I want to come for taking this project as my research study. And Cornell is hosting me. So although I was placed in Cornell and the dean, Professor Olin, who is a very big name in this academia, he was my advisor for this work. So most of the time I visited Innocence Project in New York. And I am indebted for the role in my career of Professor Barry Sack, who introduced me to various domain experts across US. So I visited various universities. Almost I visited around 10 or 12 states, United States, in that span of around 8 months. And I got to know the nuances. I had opportunity to talk 12 such people who were in death row. And they were being exonerated by way of either using DNA or many other things. So by now, if you see the Innocence registry, if you Google, more than 3,000 people have been proved innocent, and many of them were on death row. And there are instances, not only one or two, maybe in hundreds in the United States, where subsequently after their hanging or their execution, it has been proved they were innocent. So I believe that no jurisdiction can claim that we do not have this kind of problem. So punishing the innocent people is the curse of the society, right?
So the
And I
tagline,
think
punishing the innocent people is the curse to the society.
to the society, and no human being will going to accept it, whether he educated or whatever, maybe child or maybe old, whatever, irrespective of space and time. So that is how it inspired me. And I am trying to replicate those learnings in our Indian setup. That is the major cause why Innocence project is very, very important. And we have, my son is currently doing LLM from UCLA US. And he has registered one India Innocence in consonance with Innocence Project of United States. And we are trying build this awareness. So these days we are building awareness program so that people should come up and will realize this, legal menace and to find some actual remedy on ground. So this is how, in a nutshell, things can be said. But time is always to be respected. Yes.